Hello everyone, welcome to Pharmacy in Our Lives, a pharmacy show sponsored by Guehung Media and Pleasant Care Pharmacy, a locally owned health mart. My name is Dr. Chau Phan. I'm the main host of the show, and it's my pleasure to be here to educate the public about different health topics through the perspective of a pharmacist. And sitting with me today is my co-host and longtime friend, Dr. Roger Patel. Welcome, Dr. Patel, and he is a professor at the University of Pacific School of Pharmacy. And the goal of our show is to encourage viewers to be more aware of their health and wellness by educating on common health topics, drugs, or pharmacy-related topics. And many of the conditions that we usually discuss on the show are preventable and can be managed at home if everyone can understand how important it is to comply with treatment, which includes not only medications, but also lifestyle changes. So today we will be discussing about Medicare Part D. Every year you will see that I have Dr. Patel come on to our show because he's the expert on Medicare Part D. And you will learn how it works, how you can save money on your prescription drug coverage. We will also share with you how you can get help reviewing all of your medications to make sure that they are safe and effective to take together, and where you can receive these awesome free health screenings and services. So, Dr. Patel.
Yes.
Before we get into all of that you do every year, but for 2019 and for the viewers, let's give them a little general overview of what is Medicare and what are the parts of Medicare.
Okay, so Medicare is federally subsidized insurance. Most people who qualify for Medicare do so based on age, 65 and older.
Yes.
But there are other routes that you can qualify if you have a permanent disability, if you have end-stage kidney disease, or a couple of other routes. And once you qualify for Medicare, there's actually 4 different parts. Part A, many people think of as hospital insurance, but it covers other things like skilled nursing facility stays. If you have a terminal illness, it covers hospice care and home health care. And Part B is your outpatient medical coverage. So here, if I have Medicare and I just want to see my doctor on an outpatient basis, and the doctor then orders some lab work or I need an x-ray, that's all going to be covered under Medicare Part B.
Yes.
So Part A and Part B. Part C is also known as Medicare Advantage plans. And the easiest way to think about these plans is they cover everything that Part A covers and everything that Part B covers. And oftentimes they will also include prescription drug coverage and cover services that original Medicare doesn't pay for, like dental care, vision, and hearing testing.
That's right.
The 4th part of the Medicare benefit is Part D, and that's your outpatient prescription drug coverage. So that's the newest benefit that's been available to people who have Medicare since 2006, and it helps pay for a lot of the cost of outpatient prescription drugs.
Okay. So then, Dr. Patel, what does Medicare Part D cover? What kind of drugs do they cover for that?
Sure. So Part D is, like I said, an outpatient prescription drug benefit, but what does that mean exactly? It means that it will cover, your Part D plan will cover both brand and generic drugs. But the viewers might be thinking, oh, it covers everything.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not like that. The way it works is every Part D plan has to cover a minimum of 2 drugs in every single drug class. The last time I checked, there are almost 170 different drug classes.
Wow.
But as you can imagine, some drug classes have far more than 2 drugs.
That's
Maybe
right.
it has 5 or 10.
Yes.
They're only required to cover 2.
Yes.
There are 6 classes of medications that actually all of the drugs for the most part have to be covered. So if you're taking a drug for depression, or you're taking a drug for epilepsy, or you're taking a drug for psychosis, if you have a drug that helps suppress your immune system, or you have hepatitis or HIV or cancer, any of the drugs in those classes actually are going to be covered by your Part D plan.
But everything else. And that's why people should know that that's why there's formularies.
Right.
Yes, because like you said, like for example, an inhaler, they're like Ventolin, Pro Air, and all kinds of stuff. But sometimes, you know, only Ventolin's covered, not Pro Air.
Exactly. So. Yeah, every Part D plan, and this is what's important, is every Part D plan, like you said, has a different formulary, a list of medications they cover, and often a different cost structure too.
So how can Medicare beneficiary get prescription drug plan?
Sure. There's two primary routes. One is those Part C plans that we talked about, Medicare Advantage plans.
Yes.
Because yes, they offer hospital and medical coverage, but they often also include a prescription drug component. The other way is you can get something called a standalone prescription drug plan. And this plan is what it sounds like. It doesn't cover anything except for prescription drugs. So those are your two routes. But to further complicate things, because Medicare is complicated, unfortunately, there's a lot of different ways within each of those routes to get drug coverage.
Oh, what do you mean different ways to get drug coverage?
Sure. So when we're talking about the standalone plans, Medicare just released the number of plans that are going to be available in California.
Yes.
In 2018, this year, we have 25 such plans. In 2019, that number is going up to 30. So we're going to have 5 more plans in the state. And when you talk about Medicare Advantage plans, they also are increasing. The number of Medicare Advantage plans depend on what county you live in. But for all the counties in California, it looks like the number of plans that are going to be available are going to increase.
That's very interesting because, throughout the years, and I've been with you for the last 11 years now.
Yeah.
And every year, the number of plans decrease.
Right.
So only this year, I'm hearing the number of plans increase. Do you know the reason why?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So it's true. There's been a consistent downward trend in the number of plan offerings.
Yes.
And then for some reason, this year, it's reversed the course. Two primary reasons, I think. The reason Medicare Advantage plans seem to be popping up a lot more frequently, and especially going into 2019, is more and more beneficiaries are actually choosing that route. And so I think outside insurance companies are looking at the potential marketplace and trying to get a piece of that pie. And so more are offering a Medicare Advantage plan. On the prescription drug component side, I think the reason that's increasing is that the utilization patterns of Medicare beneficiaries is changed a little bit, and the number of new brand drugs has gone down. So many of them are looking at this as a more profitable venture to offer prescription drug coverage because they don't have to worry about paying for
the brand names.
Exactly.
Or maybe is it due to also the population, the baby boomers are, more and more needing more medications and qualified for Medicare as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the baby boomers are those born between 1946 and 1964, so many of them are right now Medicare eligible for the first time. And so that could also be a reason.
And do you remember the first year, how many plans? I thought it was like 60 plans, or wasn't it something like that?
Yeah, way back for the first couple of years, you're right. It was 55 to 60 plans, so that number has gone down by 50%.
Yes, and now it went kind of a little bit back up. So that was an interesting trend.
Yeah.
So what are the benefits that are changing right now for this year?
So it looks like
2019.
Yeah, so there's some good news I have and some not so good news.
Okay.
Let's start with the good news. There are going to be plans, many plans are going to be available at lower premiums, which is great. In California next year, there's going to be a plan that's under $13 for a standalone Part D plan. It's the lowest premium I've ever seen since Medicare Part D came into effect. But on the other end of the spectrum, there are 3 plans that are going to have premiums that are $115 or more. So quite a range.
Yeah.
So that's some of the news on the premium side. With regards to the deductible, that's going to go up a little bit. The maximum deductible in 2018 is $405. Next year, it's actually going up to $415.
Okay.
So it looks like the amount that you're going to have to pay out of pocket is going to increase slightly at the beginning of the year.
Sure,
right.
Sure. And then what about for those that are Medi-Medi? Do they still, because I know as a pharmacist and dispensing medications, is it still $125, $370?
Yes.
Or what are the copays now?
Right, the costs are just slightly higher than that for both generics and brands for dual eligible beneficiaries, those who have both Medicare and Medi-Cal. But there is one substantive change that I want to share with everyone that's going to really affect the duals. Currently, and for since Medicare Part D came into effect, the duals, those who had both Medicare and Medi-Cal, had a unique advantage. They could actually switch their Part D plan at any time throughout the course of the year. And actually, if they wanted to, they could switch every month. In 2019, for the first time, their choices are going to be more restricted in that they can only switch their Part D plan once every quarter for the first 9 months of the year. So really what that means is they can switch it now 3 times during the first 9 months of the year as opposed to, every month.
Right.
So they have to be very mindful of that.
Yes, understood. So in terms of the donut hole, or for those that know as a coverage gap, are there any changes in those as well?
Yeah, two changes there, both of which are actually good for patients. The amount that the government and your Part D plan will pay is going to increase for generic drugs and for brand drugs. For generic drugs, they'll have to pay 37% of the cost. The plan will pick up 63% of the cost. So for example, that means if a generic drug cost $100 a month, the patient would pay $37, the rest would be picked up for them.
Right.
But for brand drugs, the amount that the plan pays is even greater. So it's actually 75%.
Yeah.
And that was actually not supposed to happen until the year 2020. But earlier this year, we had a bipartisan budget act that was passed, which actually helped close the gap for brand drugs. So what that means is if you have a brand drug that's $100 that's filled next year during the coverage gap, you only pay $25.
That's very good. Again, back to when it first started, they had to pay all of it out of pocket, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Prior to 2010, you had to pay 100% of the cost.
100% of that, donut hole.
Right.
So I still remember that.
Right.
So what are the restrictions? Are there any restrictions in the using the Medicare Part D plans?
Yeah. So it's wonderful if the drug plan that you have or that you're looking at covers your drugs, but that doesn't mean you'll always have access to the medications. There are things you need to be mindful of, specifically called restrictions or utilization management tools.
Yes.
These are different things that might impede your ability to get a medication, like prior authorization. And what a PA or prior authorization means is that frequently you or your prescriber must contact the drug plan and identify if you fulfill certain criteria before you can get access to the drug. If you haven't met those criteria, even though the drug is on formulary, you won't be able to get it. The other restriction you should know about is step therapy. And what this is an easy way to think about this is there's frequently multiple different drugs that can treat a particular condition.
That's right.
But some drugs are much more costly than others. So step therapy means they want you to try a cheaper drug for your particular health condition before they're going to cover a more costly drug.
That's right, yes.
And then the last restriction is quantity limit. And this is simply the plan is restricting the amount of tablets, for instance, or capsules you can get of a particular drug over a defined period of time. So it might be that they say you can get 60 tablets over 30 days.
Yes.
If you only take it once a day, that's not going to be a problem.
Right.
But if you take it 3 times a day, that's going to be a problem because you need 90, but the plan's quantity limit is 60. So please be very careful about those restrictions.
And just for the viewers, I think that this applies to people that don't have Medicare. I mean, anyone that's going through health insurance, they're going to have prior authorization, quantity limits, or step therapy.
Absolutely.
That's, so it's not just for Medicare patients. So Dr. Patel, what's the difference between a Medicare Advantage drug plan versus a standalone drug plan?
Sure. So the primary difference is, again, those Medicare Advantage plans cover more than just prescription drugs. They will often cover hospital and medical benefits. The standalone prescription drug plan just covers prescription drug coverage. But regardless of what plan you're choosing, every plan can have a different premium, a different deductible, a different formulary, a different cost-sharing structure, and a different pharmacy network, specifically what pharmacies you can go to and how much your cost would be.
Yeah, because if some pharmacy, if it's not in their network, it could cost the patient more.
It could cost, if a pharmacy is not in a network, the patient has to pay the full cost of the medication.
That's right.
Right.
So then they'd have to know the difference between each plan, and then, so how can they, as a viewer, and then the first time being Medicare, what can they do to make sure that those things they can differentiate and help themselves better? Yeah,
it's a good question. There are certain resources that are objective, that are wonderful. One of which is the Medicare Plan Finder tool. But the problem is you need a computer, you need internet access, you need to go on the Medicare website, you need to know how to navigate the tool, and then there's a lot of information that can become overwhelming for many.
Yes.
So that is a challenge. You could call 1-800-MEDICARE, but of course then it's all over the phone and you can't really see what they see. So that also presents a challenge. So it is sometimes very challenging to get objective, unbiased information so that beneficiaries can make educated decisions.
And just for the viewers too, that a lot of, because when my dad started turning 65, he got a lot of mails from different insurance plans trying to recruit him.
Right.
So just because you get in the mail doesn't mean that that's the best plan for you.
Absolutely. Right now, I'm sure that Medicare beneficiaries, like your dad, will get bombarded with emails and physical mail and phone calls.
That's right.
And then media is heavily advertising, whether it's print media or radio or television. But you're right, and there is no such thing if your neighbor says, oh, this plan is great. Every plan depends on your particular situation, your
That's right.
medications. So you need to really evaluate that in light of all of the different factors we talked about.
Yes, because everyone takes different drugs, so because of that, you're going to have different drug plan that's better fit for you.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So can you elaborate a little bit more on why is it important that the Medicare beneficiaries should be looking more into, shopping for their the right drug plan for themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and this is the window of time where it's really important if you have Medicare to consider evaluating your Part D plan. And that window is between October 15th and December 7th. During that 7-week window, whether you currently have a Part D plan or you want to sign up for the first time, you can actually do so. Anyone can switch their Medicare drug plan during that window. And the reason that's important is what we found over these past 11 years is that about 80% of beneficiaries can actually save money by switching their Part D plan. I'm not telling them to change the pharmacy that they go to or the medications that they take or the prescriber that they go to.
Yeah.
I'm simply saying by changing their prescription drug plan. And if you're wondering on average how much that is, it's about $1,049, which is no small amount when you consider most of these individuals are older adults on fixed income.
That's right, on Social Security and things
Right.
like that. So that's actually a lot of money. $1,049. That's like almost averaging close to $100 a month
Right.
that they could be saving. So I can see the importance of that, but not everybody is able to, like you said, use a computer, navigate the Medicare Finder tool.
Right.
So that's why I really am, grateful that you and University of Pacific put on these events for the people. And how many events are you going to have?
This year we have 14 events in 10 different cities throughout Northern and Central California.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
so that's going to be great. And we will put on the slide for you with all the events in there, so that way the viewers can see. So here's a question,
Sure.
true or false? If the consumer, they're happy with their current Medicare Part D plan this year, they think that they don't need to check it out and during the open enrollment period. Do you think that's the right thing to do?
No, unfortunately, that's false. It's wonderful if you're happy with your current Part D plan this year, but there's no guarantee that that plan is going to be the best for you next year. These plans change the medications that they cover, they change their cost sharing structure, and so if you don't evaluate the plan during the open enrollment period, and then you are unhappy with it in January, February, you might be stuck.
Yeah.
And so there's nothing you can do at that point. Really think about your Medicare Part D plan like many of us think about an annual checkup, going to our doctor annually just to make sure everything's okay. You need to do the same thing with your Medicare drug plan.
Now, can plans change their formulary within the year?
So, good question. So, plans can change their formulary within the year, yes. However, if a beneficiary, so things that they can do, for instance, is if a drug goes from brand to generic, they don't have to cover the brand drug anymore.
Sure,
If a
that's
drug is
understandable.
pulled for safety reasons, obviously they don't need to cover it. But what Medicare doesn't allow is if a patient is already in the plan and then the plan makes certain changes to that drug, including removing it from formulary, it's called, they can't be negatively adversely affected, meaning it can't affect people that are already in the plan. It can only affect those people considering joining the
New.
plan. Right.
Okay, I
Right.
see. So that's good news. So then, in a way, if you're locked in for that year, that the plan must carry or pay for that medication, even though if they decide to pull it off of their formulary. Okay, so that's good. So here's another question: true or false? My out-of-pocket costs under my Medicare Part D drug plan can vary depending on what pharmacy I go to.
Yeah, so this is important, and we're seeing this a lot lately. There's really 3 types of pharmacies. There's an out-of-network pharmacy, and what that means is if I go and get my drugs from that pharmacy, I am not going to get any of my costs subsidized. I'm going to have to pay 100% of the cost. Then there's also called network pharmacies, and there's 2 types of network pharmacies. There's standard and there's preferred. And every plan has a different pharmacy network, and really what that means from the patient's perspective is the preferred pharmacy, their cost is going to be slightly lower than a standard pharmacy. So it's important to just understand pharmacy networks.
I see. So how would the consumer know if the pharmacy that they currently are going to is the preferred versus the standard versus out-of-network?
Yeah, it's a tough one for them. So there's a few ways they can understand or learn this information. One is they can call their plan and say, this is the pharmacy I like to go to. Can you tell me?
Okay.
The other thing they can do is they can directly ask the pharmacy and find out from them. Or they can contact Medicare or use the online Medicare Plan Finder tool. And it designates...
It will tell you.
Exactly. All of the pharmacies that are in network and specifically if they're preferred or standard.
Oh, well, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay. So another question is, true or false? I should always choose a Part D plan with the lowest monthly premium.
That is false for everyone except for a small subset of the population. And I'll explain why. The reason it's false for most is that premium is just one consideration of cost. There's also the deductible, there's how much you pay at the pharmacy for the medications.
That's right.
So don't get
copay.
Right. Don't get too heavily influenced by saying, oh, my Part D plan has a low monthly premium, because though that may be true, you might have to pay much more in terms of the copay at the pharmacy for those drugs than a plan that has a slightly higher premium. But I said that's true for almost all, or false for almost all except for a small subset. The only population for which that is true, that they should select the plan with the lowest monthly premium, are those individuals who are fortunate enough not to take any medications.
That's right.
Because then they only have to pay the monthly premium. They don't have to worry about a copay at the pharmacy.
Now, someone would say, well, I'm not taking any medication. I don't even need to have a plan.
Yeah.
What do you say to that?
Yeah, I say it's wonderful. They're fortunate right now that they currently have no medications. But what is to say in a week, a month, a year, that often they don't develop a condition and now they need to treat the condition with the medication.
That's right.
If they sign up for a Part D plan later, then when they're first eligible, there's going to be something called a late enrollment penalty.
Yes.
And it gets assessed all the way to when they were first eligible for Part D. So it can become quite costly. Instead, just sign up for the lowest monthly premium. As I previously said, in 2019, there's going to be a plan in California that's under $13 a month, for peace of mind that you have insurance should you need it later.
That's right. And that's a great answer, because I know people that say, I don't need that. Right. And then a week later or a month later, they have a stroke, heart attack or something, and then now they have to be on a ton of meds.
Right.
And so that could put them into a really serious situation.
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So another one, in 2009, true or false, those who have both Medicare and Medi-Cal can switch their Part D plan monthly.
Right. So as we said, that is going to be false. That is true this year, but if you have both Medicare and Medi-Cal next year, you cannot switch your plans every month. You can only switch them once every quarter. Right.
So, I mean, really, the people that already have Medicare and Medi-Cal, they really don't care anyways, because most of their drugs are already covered as well, right? So why would they want to change? Have you seen what makes someone change? Because I mean, their copay is so minimal, and it doesn't matter which plan they have. So why would they want to change every month anyways?
Right. Good question. So it's true that their copays are minimal, provided that the drug they're taking is on formulary. The Part D plans that they're in, there's no guarantee that even though they have both Medicare and Medi-Cal, that the drugs that they're taking are covered on the formulary. So that's why oftentimes they'll want to switch to a different plan, because the plan they're in, maybe they were hospitalized recently and now got a new list of medications.
That's true.
And their Part D plan doesn't cover it. So that would be the one of the primary reasons.
Okay. So here's another one.
Yeah.
True or false? There is no one to help me to review my Medicare Part D drug plan to see if I can lower my drug cost. So
that's false, and that's honestly why we started the program at the school so many years ago. We at the University of Pacific School of Pharmacy are here to help, and are looking forward to coming back to San Jose for our 11th year.
Yes, and not only in San Jose, but you're going to be in 10 other cities or 9 other cities?
9 other cities, yeah. We'll be in Stockton, Lodi, Tracy, Ripon, Berkeley, San Francisco, Pleasanton, Sacramento, and Turlock. Yeah.
Wow, that is a lot of traveling for
you.
Okay, so now during the Medicare Part D enrollment period here that we're just saying October 15th through December 7th.
Correct.
So all your events are going to be during that time.
Yes,
is that correct?
That is correct. All of our events are within the window of open enrollment.
And then so you can help so what do you do there? Can you give us a little bit more information on the events and what kind of services you provide?
Absolutely. So one of the things we'll do if you attend our events is we will sit down with you and we will look through all of the different Medicare drug plans that are available. and we will look specifically based on your needs. We'll find the lowest cost Part D plan. As I said previously, for about 20%, their current plan is probably going to be the best moving forward.
Right.
But that leaves about 80% that can potentially save money by switching drug plans.
$1,000.
Right.
Yes.
And if you want, what we'll do right there at the event is we will switch your drug plan with your permission so that you don't have to worry about anything. Your current coverage will remain intact until December 31st. The new Part D plan will take into effect on January 1st, and it's all taken care of for you.
And what other services besides switching, helping people pick their best Medicare Part D plan for themselves, what other services do you guys provide?
Sure. So the other thing that we'll do when we're sitting down with you is we will do a full-blown review of your medications, both prescription and over-the-counter, to make sure they're safe to take together. As part of that review, we will build a personalized medication record for you. And if you are non-English speaking, with a simple click of a button, everything will be translated into one of 16 languages. The other thing we provide is a pictogram. So for those who might have difficulty reading or limited or low literacy, based on the sunrise or the sunset or the moon, you can see the timing of day to take your medications.
Yes, I've seen that. That's great.
And then we have about 13 different health screenings and services, everything from cholesterol, blood pressure, bone density, anemia, a variety of mental health screenings, asthma, and then our newest addition this year is we're going to help distribute Narcan.
Oh, yes. That's right. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're going to do with Narcan? This is this new service.
Sure. This is the first year we're offering it. And for those who aren't familiar, Narcan is a drug that basically is an opioid antagonist. What that means is, as we know, across the country, California, this county, no different, there's an opioid epidemic. And if you don't believe me, maybe this stat will help convince you. The U.S. comprises about 5% of the world's population. We consume about 99% of the hydrocodone and over 85% of the oxycodone in the entire world. So
wow.
5% of the population consumes 99% of hydrocodone. This isn't from me. This is directly from the Drug Enforcement Agency.
Oh my
so
gosh.
we definitely, right, staggering,
yeah, that's
have
staggering.
an opioid epidemic here. One of the things with opioid epidemic is oftentimes people inadvertently or accidentally overdose because of misuse of the medication. And what Narcan is, it's, again, an opioid antagonist. It competes with the opioids for receptors in the brain and actually competes more strongly. So it displaces the opioids from the brain and helps revive a person so that they don't have an accidental overdose. It will save people's lives, and then they can seek emergency medical care shortly thereafter. The one thing I want to mention about not only the Narcan, but all of the services we previously identified, they're all available free of charge.
So think of it as not only just a Medicare Part D event, really, but this is a health screening event with Medicare Part D and comprehensive medication review on top of that.
Yes.
So this is like a very comprehensive, event that you're putting up. And now, in terms of Narcan, what do they need in order to qualify for you to dispense them?
So we are trying to be very liberal, not so conservative that no one would actually meet the eligibility criteria and not get the Narcan. So some of the kinds of things that they would need is if they have had a recent accidental overdose, if they are heavy utilizers of opioid medications, whether it's multiple opioid drugs or if it's a high dose of a particular drug. But also, it might not even be directly for them. They might have a family member or a neighbor
that you know of that is
that fits the
abusing and
criteria.
addicted to the opioids.
And we will dispense it to you to give to them as well.
So basically, not a lot of obstacles in getting this medication from your event.
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Because I really want to emphasize that so that people feel like they can come to you, freely and not be worried about getting in trouble or just.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because the other thing I want to talk about, I know that opioid has a very negative stigma.
Yes.
We will not collect any personal identifiable information. We're not going to ask for your name, your address, your phone number when we give you the Narcan. We will completely cover your identity. The only pieces of information we ask are not identifiable, things like race, ethnicity, things like that, but nothing that can personally identify you.
That's great. So, and just so that the viewers know, this can save someone's life, right?
Absolutely.
And it's actually a very expensive medication, because I own my pharmacy, and I know it's in the hundreds of dollars.
Exactly.
So for you guys to actually providing this free of charge, no questions asked, that's an awesome thing that you guys are doing.
Thank you.
So, so now we have a very special event in San Jose that's coming up October 21st in the Vietnamese American Community Center on Lucretia Avenue on Sunday,
Right.
the October 21st, from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Right.
So can you tell us a little bit more about this event? And, you know, are they going to be the same services, and what anything different from the other ones that you talked about?
Sure. So yes, this will be our 11th year in San Jose, but specifically our 2nd year at this site, at the Vietnamese American Community Center. All of the services that I previously mentioned, from the Medicare Part D plan review all the way to the Narcan distribution, will be available at this event. We will also try to have ample number of Vietnamese translators, because many of those that attend, even though it's completely open and free to the public, we expect a large number of Vietnamese speakers to attend, so we will try to have a sufficient number of translators available as well.
Last year, I actually went to the event, and it was highly well attended, and there were a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I hope that, you know, again, this year the Vietnamese community can come out, and there's going to be Vietnamese translators for you, and a lot of great services, and the Narcan will be available as well.
Yes,
So,
and the flu shot, annual flu shot. Get your flu
the
shot.
flu shots,
Yes.
and that's going to be free as well.
Absolutely.
That's going to be free. So there you go. So I hope that you guys can come out on October 21st from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Again, at the Vietnamese American Community Center on Lucretia Avenue. So, is there anything else that you wanted to say to the viewers before we finish?
No, I think we covered it all. I would like to echo your sentiments. I certainly hope to see them a little bit later next month, in October 21st, at the event, and to take advantage of any of the services that you feel you can benefit from.
Great. Well, thank you for being here. I really appreciate you being here. And thank you for watching our Pharmacy in Our Lives show, brought to you by Quê Hương Media and Pleasant Care Pharmacy, a locally owned Health Mart pharmacy. And we hope you find the information useful. And I want to thank you again to Dr. Patel for being here, the 11th year now with me, and I'll see you again next year.
Look forward to it.
And for those of you who have any questions or suggestions, please email me at chau.fan@pleasantcarepharmacy.com or call us at 510-200-9984. We have pharmacists and pharmacy students to help answer your questions free of charge. You can also visit me at www.pleasantcarepharmacy.com. We also have a YouTube channel called Pleasant Care Pharmacy if you'd like to watch previous shows. And thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time. My son, at 3-month-old, he had really bad eczema. It was all over his face, his body. Sometimes at night, he would wake up and cry, and we would find him covered in blood from scratching himself. I took him to his primary care physician, an allergist, even a dermatologist, even trying naturopathic doctor. And through all those, most of the Western doctors, they prescribed to him steroid cream. And being a pharmacist, I know that steroid cream long-term is not good for my son, so I don't want that to be his treatment forever. I tried really hard finding a solution for my son, and I couldn't find anything that really helps him and maintain his eczema. So when I was able to open up my own compounding pharmacy where I can create creams and come up with formulas myself, then I said, well, that's the first thing that I'm going to do. I'm going to try to find an alternative cream that doesn't have long-term side effects that my son can use for a long time every day. So my cream, after I use it on him, he has now improved up to 90–95%. With that in mind, I wanted to help other people that have skin disease and skin problems that just couldn't find that solution.
My acne was very, very bad. It appeared all over my face. My cheek area, my neck, all the way to my back and my shoulders.
Every person, their skin needs are going to be different. So that's why I want to sit down with a patient and find out their problems or what they're looking for, and come up with a formula that are specific for their skincare needs.
Chau gives you that special care where she'll sit down and spend the time to discover what your needs are and what you want to look like, and give you the product that's appropriate for your skincare.
I believe that one size does not fit all, and it shouldn't fit all. There are a lot of brands and there are a lot of products out there. So for me, I believe in simplicity and cost effectiveness.
I have to use at least 5 products per night for my regimen. This is what I got from Pleasant Skincare. there's only one product that I have used to achieve the result I wanted.
I can customize whatever you need into one bottle, and it not only decrease on the amount of products you have to buy, but it also decrease on the amount of money that you have to spend, and it will decrease on the amount of time that you have to spend on your face and your skincare regimen.
I've been using Pleasant Care Pharmacy products for about a year, and definitely seen the difference.
I like Mommy's cream so much.